Ultimately, you're building a business because you want to build freedom. You want to build a future. You want to build a legacy. And for a lot of you, you think, I want to just pursue and build happiness. Well, what we're unpacking today is we're talking about, is it actually possible for money to buy happiness? Welcome to Own the Exit. All right. Aaron, you were mentioning a study by Harvard from years ago that you had read, something about $85,000 a year. What was that study?
So they surveyed like hundreds or maybe even a few thousand people. I think they followed them for like 20 years. And what they were trying to figure out is, does money buy happiness?
Okay.
And this study showed it does buy happiness up to $85,000 a year. And so basically, the idea there is $85,000, and it's more now, probably with inflation.
When was that study released?
This was at least 10 years ago or something like that, because I've known about this for a while.
It's got to be over 100K.
There's new studies since then that have come out that contradicted a bit. But this is one line of thinking, is money buys happiness up until the point where your physical needs are taken care of.
Okay.
And so the food, the shelter, the clothing, the security for your kids, they're in school, all that stuff, you have transportation. Once that's taken care of, more money doesn't equal more happiness. Maybe you have a nicer car, maybe you have a bigger house, you have a nicer coat, but it doesn't, those things don't bring you more happiness. So that was kind of the stuff on that.
And we've all kind of experienced that too, probably. So I could see how a study like that could conclude something like that. Because you think, like, you get a little bit more money, you go buy a nicer car. You're kind of happy and excited about that nicer car for about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month. And then it's just like, it's your car. It's the thing that you drive every day. It's not like something that every time you get in and it's that same feeling as like when you first bought it, and then your kid throws up in it on vacation. And then
you told me you're brand new.
Yeah, we literally I bought my wife, a brand new, nice SUV last year, and a week after we bought it, we went on vacation.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks, road trip, vacation, still smelled, new car smell, all the stuff. And my, 7-year-old daughter threw up.
So your happiness was depleted.
Yeah, I lost my happiness.
Well, I think too, if you're trying to find happiness in that stuff, then it's always going to be trying to get more and more.
Right.
But then if you're trying to look for happiness, other places, I would even go as far as to say that even 85,000 doesn't bring happiness.
No.
Because, I know there's differing views on that. Some people are like, well, man, give me $1 million and I'll show you, I'll be happy, right? But a lot of the people that you talk to, and I've talked to people that have more money, have higher net worth, and they're like, this is not, my physical health isn't necessarily better, my mental health is not better, my relationships that bring me joy and security aren't better.
Right.
Money can't fix a lot of that stuff. And so I guess my philosophy is like, hey, try to get a lot of money, because I think it's good to have money, because money is a tool.
Yeah. So
I like having more money because it's more resources, right? So how I look at it is money can solve or remove obstacles that are in the way of finding happiness. But it's not the actual money that brings the happiness. But the money can, put food in your, kids' bellies. If they don't have that, that's an obstacle to finding contentment and that fulfillment and everything. So it's like it takes care of the base level of living.
Yeah. I think I've always thought of, I grew up in very, lower income family and
humble needs.
And we were always happy though. We always had, when my childhood, I had a very happy childhood. Later in childhood, teenage years, it got a little different, but I kind of grew up in this context where people who had money, they were sort of bad, I remember in our little kind of small rural community in North Carolina where I grew up, there was a guy who went to the church we used to go to that had built kind of a successful grading and excavation company, and he'd done really well for himself, and he owned this nice big piece of land, and he built this beautiful house on it. And I remember driving by that house with my mom or my grandfather or whatever, And every time they would drive by and make some kind of negative comment about about his house and how it was like sitting there, and like, "Oh, if you're going to build a big, fancy house like that, then it doesn't need to be up on top of a hill where everybody can see it, and you're just bragging and all stuff." And I'm sitting there, even as a kid, thinking, well, if I was going to build a big, beautiful house, I'd want it to be on top of that hill, and because it's a nice view of the mountains and all the different things, right? So that's how but that's kind of how I grew up, was like money was bad. And then, as I sort of began to grow and understand and all those kind of things, I probably went to money is good because it was the thing that I didn't have any of. And so it was like I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to chase that. That's going to be the thing that's going to bring happiness. Right. And then once I started getting a little bit, I realized it actually is not like it's pretty much the same. Like, cause it all really came down to my mindset, my thought process about life, me keeping my values in order. Happiness was a decision and a choice. It wasn't predicated on some external factor. And then I was able to start viewing money as a tool.
Well, yeah.
Right? It is a tool. And that's why I'm sharing that, is you mentioning that, right? And I had this, comparison and realization. I was in when I owned my landscaping business, I was in my shop getting some tools together or whatever. And there was like a framing hammer that was sitting on top of my workbench. And I was thinking about all this I might have even been listening to an audiobook or something, but I saw that and I was like, you know what? Money's like that hammer. Like I can pick that hammer up and I could use that thing to build a house, and that would make that inanimate, not innately virtuous hammer accomplish something good. Or I could take this hammer and use it to like break everything in this shop.
Somebody over the head.
Exactly. Or hit somebody in the head or whatever.
Right.
And suddenly this inanimate object became something that did not produce a happy, good, positive end, but actually produced like a destructive end.
So if money is a tool, then the tool is not what brings happiness then, right?
Exactly. It's the person who's holding the tool in their hand.
What you're able to do with it.
Exactly. It's the person it's like the old, you remember, what's his name? The redneck comedian, Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not making a statement about, gun control or whatever, but he's like, if you can blame, what is it? He's like, if you can blame guns for killing people, you can blame misspelled words on your pencil.
Right.
Like that kind of thing. Like, because the point is like the person, we may need to bleep that out. I don't know if YouTube will like us saying the word gun on the channel, but But the point is water guns. Exactly. Guns. Yeah. The point is it's really like who's holding it in their hand. I think that determines whether it can produce happiness or not. It's like, are you a happy person with or without it? If you are, then it kind of just maybe gets to amplify that. Like if I'm generous to my wife, then having more money means that I get to be more generous to my wife. If I do fun things with my kids, then having more money means that I get to go do more cool, more expensive, fun things with my kids and give them better experiences. And that creates happiness. But if I'm stingy or if I'm selfish or if I'm, just not happy, then no amount of money is going to fix that.
Yeah. I was talking to this guy. He's got a really nice house and he got a bunch of land and stuff. And he was like, man, me and Kim were like the happiest when we were in our trailer.
Yeah.
Because they got a big house now, but all their kids are grown and everything. They got a pool and everything. But the kids are, they don't come over because they've got their own lives and some of them aren't in town. And he was like, yeah, this big house, like it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to sell it or maybe figure something out, Yeah. But it's that whole idea of like, who you're with. And like, I like what you said, happiness is a choice. I talked to another guy he's like a pastor who would go and visit people and does a lot of like family counseling and stuff. Flew out to meet this guy. I think his net worth was like 10 million or something. So he was good on finances. And his kid though, like it was like, he was estranged from his son, and his son was like crazy rebellious and had a broken relationship. And then the guy was just so sad, like help me, like he's like, I would give my $10 million to fix the relationship with my son and have that because it's more precious.
Wow.
But you can't
Yeah.
20 million, could 100 million, the kid
Right.
just doesn't care about that. Right.
Right.
And so I think that's an example even of using it for, I don't know all the circumstances behind it or whatever,
Sure.
but that's just like, there's some things that money can't buy.
Yeah.
And those are the things that actually, that matter. Right. Having a good marriage, having kids that want to talk to you
Yeah.
and hang out with you, having friendships, having, faith, having the internal security, right?
Yeah.
Discipline, mastery of self, all those things, right? Mental health is such a big one that's just coming up so much. It almost seems like, I think that we've always had that like in society, but it almost seems to be coming to the surface more with like celebrities and people with money and just like all the mental health and social media and all the onslaught of like so many things have contributed, I think, to just like internal chaos.
Yeah.
And traffic and money can't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had a conversation with some friends of mine. They own a business down in Brazil, and this was like right during COVID. We had this conversation. We were talking about like, the impact of COVID on people's mental health and people's this and people's
COVID,
that.
yeah, it's a big one.
And they said this thing. I was like, it's really, really true. They said, what we think is this whole thing has just magnified whatever was already inside of people. Right? Like if it's already your natural bent to just sit around and just binge Netflix and like not actually, like this just magnified and gave you more capacity to do that. But if your natural bent was like to really like invest in your family and your spiritual life, and like, well, guess what? Like you just got a whole lot more free time because you can't go to the office, you can't go to work, you can barely go to the freaking grocery store.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just got a whole bunch of like this whole like vacuum of time to do more of the things that you naturally would do. And so it's a magnifying glass for your natural bent. And I think the reason I bring that up is, do you think money is kind of the same sort of thing? It's sort of a magnifying glass for where you already are. It either magnifies happiness or it magnifies misery.
Yeah, 100%. Because whatever's in your heart, if you don't have money, you're not able to like express that.
Right.
So let's say you have a lot of evil desires or crazy wild stuff, but you don't have money, so you can't like live that out.
Yeah.
But when you get money, you can do that, and it's destructive.
Right.
And it's same for good. There's people that have a desire to help people, to serve, to do things in the world that have a positive impact, but they can't do any of those things because they don't have money. They don't have the tools.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question. I'd love your take on this.
It magnifies it.
Yeah. So if that's the case, it does, because you hear a lot of people talk about how money can corrupt people. Does money corrupt, or does it just expose corruption that was already there, but didn't have the ability to be expressed?
Yeah. I think it can corrupt.
Yeah.
And I think that it can be a trap. Because, I lean towards it magnifies what's already there. But I also think that if you have a lot of money, that opens up a lot of doors to do things. And so I think that could be negative. Like you could slip, into things you don't want to be doing.
Right.
Because you have, those resources to do them, or, so I think that, the Bible says that money is like a snare. Like people who want to get rich fall into a trap and pierce themselves with many sorrows.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a principle there, like whether you're a person of faith or not, of like that desire to just keep getting more and more money.
Yeah.
Like it's a trap, because like the things that do bring joy and that you really should be going after, like your energy is not on those things.
Right.
Because you're like deceived. You're like, money is going to fix it all. Maybe 10 years goes by, or 20, or maybe your whole life.
Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, well, I got all the money, but like I missed a lot of those. So maybe that's not corruption, but maybe that's just almost like delusion.
Okay. Yeah.
Because because so much of that focus, and in our society too, like having a lot of money is just put on a pedestal.
Yeah. Sure.
If that's all what we're all going for, right? Like, hey, let's go to college and let's go to this and that and get a career. And it's like, it's all for more and more money.
Yeah.
So that we can attain to this place. But then you look back and you're like, well, I'm empty,
Yeah.
Like, what did that really, And again, I think I'm all for making as much money as possible. I love it.
Absolutely.
But I think you just have to like recognize.
Well, you have to, I think bringing it around to even like the purpose of this show, right? Like, why in the world are we talking about this like deeply philosophical conversation on Own the Exit, the show where we help entrepreneurs build with the end in mind? Well, because building with the end in mind is really about understanding it, like not losing the whole vision for why you started in the first place. And it wasn't so that you could be a billionaire. It was so that you could have financial freedom and no one else owned your time.
But like, why do you want to be a billionaire, right? Because if we ask somebody their why and they're like, I want to make millions of dollars, it's like, that's not your why. It has to be something
like,
deeper.
Yeah, you want to make millions of dollars so you can what? Like put it under your mattress? Like what? Like there's a deeper, it's like even when we, in our coaching program, I talk about, when we're having conversations with prospective clients or investors or whatever it is, like the goal, if it's like servant-hearted sales is what we call it, right? Like the idea is I want to get to the bottom of that person's so that and their fear factor to be able to understand the best avenue and way that I can help them, right? So if they say I want passive income, well, everybody wants passive income. I mean, if you could choose between getting $100,000 a month by like sitting at home doing nothing or getting $100,000 a month by working, 60 hours a week, like everyone would choose the passive version. So everyone wants passive income.
Yeah.
But there's a so that on the other side of that, that's the real thing that they want. I want passive income so that I can work less. And then a lot of times it goes a layer deeper, right? You need to go a layer deeper. It's like, well, of course I want passive income so that I can work less. Exactly. Why do you want to work less?
Yeah.
So that I can spend more time with my wife and kids. And this is where it gets really crazy. If you can go another layer deeper, you find out really what the core issue is. Because everybody would say they want to spend more time with their wife and kids, right? Like, they would say externally. Maybe not everyone. There's that 1 in 100 like douchebag guys out there that don't want to spend time with their family. But I think most dudes want to spend time with their family, and they mostly feel guilty about the fact that they can't spend as much with them as they want to. But if you go a deeper layer than that, it's like, so you want passive income so that you can work less, so that you can spend more time with your family, so that you don't feel like you failed, right? You don't feel like you failed in the things that you actually know are most important in the core of your being.
You know, in the core of your being that it's those things that matter, which also happen to be the things that bring joy and happiness and fulfillment, right?
And I may be unique in this. I don't ever feel guilty for like taking a day off and spending it with my family. But I do have days where I feel guilty for working so much that I can't be with them. And so that's like internal wiring, like going on a vacation. I don't ever feel guilty about that. I'm like, I want to go make memories with my kids, my wife, my I'm not going to have these kids in my house forever. Like, I don't ever feel like I'm making a mistake by doing that, or I'm doing the wrong thing by doing that. But sometimes it does feel like, it's like, okay, am I working too hard, or am I doing, and I'm pretty balanced now in this season where I'm like pretty strict on like how much I work. But
I know I've tried to get a hold of you on the weekends. It's like really hard.
Well,
you don't text me back.
Hey, I just try to get I work 80 hours every week. It's just, I do it in 40 hours.
Okay. Yeah. You've said that.
Right.
You got to get that down to 20 hours.
That's the next goal.
But no, absolutely. Yeah. So I think this just to say it too, is like, cause I know if somebody's not making $85,000 a year or something, or they're just starting, or they're in a different, there's been like you, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. Yep. And so at that time I was like, shoot, give me $85,000 a year.
Yeah. Seemed like a lot of money.
And so the thinking was, so I guess I'm just saying, like, there's going to be haters that are like, well, man, give me $1 million and I'll show you that it makes me happy. Right. Yeah. But I think when you talk to people that have, so just keeping that in mind, like still obviously have that drive to make more money and stuff, but just be holding that, like that thought, right? Yeah. Of like, this is going to provide for my needs. This is going to create a better external life for me and my loved ones, because having money will be able to provide like cool things, right? And nice stuff and food and good things. But like there's got to be something deeper, right? And that's what all these people, these people say, right, that have money and that have gone through some of that soul searching of like, I'm not fulfilled by having this, and getting another million doesn't really fix it either,
Yeah, totally.
And so
there was, as we're bringing it up, you'd mentioned at the top of the show, we kicked this off with that Harvard study where it said 85,000 is kind of the plateau. Like when you get to 85,000, which probably adjusted for inflation is like 105, 110.
Yeah, I think it's gone up.
But you get to 100K. That's where the role of money in contributing to overall human happiness plateaus. But then same guy who's like it's Killingsworth, right? His name is Matthew Killingsworth or something like that. That he conducted the study. He's like a Wharton Business School fellow, conducted it through Harvard, conducted another study more recently where the exact inverse was the outcome. And this was tracking 33,000 people over, I don't know the exact period of time. And it said that on average, people who made over $85,000 a year were on average happier than people who made less than $85,000 a year.
I've got a thought on that. And my thought is the qualities and the value system and your way of thinking and your priorities that are needed to make more and more money are the ones that bring you the happiness.
Yes.
And so it's not the making of the more money that makes you happy.
Exactly.
But there's certain qualities and traits that high income earners typically have, whether it's business owners or entrepreneurs or somebody making, what it's taken to get them to that spot is the deeper things that bring them the happiness. So that would be my point on that, was where if you're really messed up and a very unhappy individual, getting $85,000 or $1 million doesn't fix that.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody with no money, but you work on yourself and you work on those internal things that can get you that $1 million, through your efforts and through, the things we were talking about, your mental, you're showing up every day, you're following through with your commitments, but keeping your word. Yeah. Where your relationships are strong and you're like trusted and loved, and like those are the things that get you to the money part, which is just like a byproduct of doing those things. So I still don't think it's the money that is bringing happiness, even on that second study.
And I think the fact that
but there's different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, I think the fact you juxtapose those two studies against each other, and the answer is money really doesn't contribute or take away from happiness. Happiness is a choice. It's your decision. It's how you view the world. Happiness is based on what you just said is refined by fire and difficulty and going through hard stuff and figuring it out and figuring out how to like not lose your mind and not, go through something like life altering and life shaking and be able to come out on the other side of it like with better perspective and a better view on life and all those kind of things. Like that contributes to overall happiness, because the longer you go, the fewer things that can come your way that actually have the strength and fortitude to steal your joy and happiness. Right? When you've gone through a bunch of tough stuff, which a lot of people who've had to climb from the bottom to the top have gone through a lot of hard stuff. They've had to face a lot of fears. They've had to face a lot of challenges. They've had to figure a lot of really complex problems out. Those people are by nature going to be happier, I think, because there's going to be fewer things that come their way that are unfamiliar and that are like, oh man, I've been down this road before. I know that I'm going to be okay, and so it doesn't steal your happiness. So, well, awesome. Any kind of closing words, man, as we wrap this one up? Deeply philosophical, but I do think it's important for business owners who are building with the end in mind to really have these kind of thoughts and conversations, because I think I have these kind of thoughts all the time, because then it's just like, well, why am I even, so then you have to have a different reason and a different why, if making another $1 million isn't going to make me happier, then like, I got to think about that. Yeah. Cause like, why am I going to exert that effort? Right. Yep. And so, but if there's a deeper reason where, that's getting me to a place where I have more happiness, not the money itself. Yeah. But, whether it's buying back your time or whatever, things like that. So, closing thoughts. I mean, I'm all for making as much money as possible, because I think that correlates to personal development. Yeah. Usually. Yeah.
Most of the time. Sometimes people win the lottery or stuff, get a big inheritance. I'm all for that too. If somebody, if that happens to me, great.
Hey, if I have
but that's not the
unknown relative die and I inherit millions of dollars, I'm not going to be mad.
No, I'll take it. But it's making the more money, correlates to that the skills increasing, right? And all that. So that's why I'm like, hey, make as much money as you can, right? Because it's part of the whole.
Yeah.
I think it's just one piece of like holistic, growth and all that. But just know it might make you happy a little bit more, but it might not.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to find out.
Yeah.
That it doesn't bring as much happiness as you thought.
Yeah. So takeaways here: money magnifies more whatever emotional kind of default state you already have. And so if you're building with the end in mind, then I think the biggest takeaway here is really don't get so focused on just the build of the business and the income. Like, make sure you're building yourself too. Make sure you're building that internal fortitude. Make sure you're building, like, you're making the decision to be happy with where you are right now in your business and in your life. And you're not selling your soul away, because guess what? When the bigger money comes, if you achieve that big PE exit or whatever, that merger, or, you just get the business to a point where it's just cash flowing like crazy, and you can, hire someone to manage it, hire an ops guy or an integrator guy to just manage the day to day, then at the end, ultimately that success is just going to magnify whatever your current default state is. Your default state's not going to change. And so make sure that as you're building with the end in mind, that you don't lose your internal state in the process. I think that is how money can be either the key to happiness or the key to misery, because it's just going to magnify whatever's already there.
Yep.
That's my closing
Agreed.
thought. Thanks everybody for joining us on The Exit.
Thanks everybody.